The UDRcast is not affiliated and does not represent any 12-step fellowship. I, Bill Ward, the host of the UDRcast, will be sharing my experience and my journey of recovery. That does include, but is not limited to, the literature contained in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps. Our guests will be sharing their own path to recovery and what has worked for them. The UDRcast encourages and supports all paths to recovery. Welcome everybody to the UDRcast. UDR stands for Uncover, Discover, and Recover. My name is Bill Ward, and I'm coming to you from the recovery capital of Canada, Calgary, Alberta. Here we are going to discuss everything recovery, different perspectives, different experiences, both with the people I know and with others from around the world. If you resonate with anything you've heard on this episode today, we ask that you share it with anyone who you think may benefit from it. If you have any questions or comments, please find us at billward.life and send us a message in the info section. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. If you are interested in more recovery content, you can find the buttons for the YouTube channel and other social media outlets on the homepage, and you will be redirected to those platforms. We can recover, one person, one family, one community at a time. My name's Bill Ward. You can find me at billward.life. And I'm a recovery activist. I work a solid program of recovery, and I try to help others wake up in their own life. You've heard the saying out there, level up. I try to help people level up. I try to live my life and level up in all aspects that I can. Being human, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes the external circumstances, get the better of us from time to time. And we get caught up in ourselves. We get caught up in what we think is going to make us happy. And if other people would, do things a certain way, love us a certain way or act a certain way, things would be a lot different. Took me a long time to realize that most of the problems that I have, they almost all exist within myself. There's a line in one of the books that I read that says it's a spiritual axiom that every time I am disturbed, the problem is within myself. And sometimes it's hard to see that the problem is within myself. Sometimes it totally looks like the problem is outside of myself. It's the actions of you. It's you not giving me the love that I want. It's you not giving me the respect that I want. It's you not treating me right. And then so I react. And then as I react, I actually create more conflict externally. But what I've realized over the years of work in my own self-examination inventory processes, the fight is never outside myself. The fight's always in myself. Am I willing to learn the lesson? Am I willing to go within and see really what the issue is within myself? Why I can't accept that person, place, or thing or situation? I found that usually it's based in my instincts, based in some type of a fear. And my instincts are pretty powerful. A lot of us think we have full control of our lives and every action that we do. Everything that we do in our lives is at our control. I don't fully believe that one single bit. There's a lot of things that are deep down within me that come out in behaviors or judgments or feelings and emotions that I have no control over. They're just results of my experience in my life. When I was a little kid, one of my first memories is living with my dad. I lived with my dad in BC, and he was an alcoholic. I was probably in about grade 2 at this point, and my mom wasn't really around. And then after a little bit, my dad realized that his alcohol problem was controlling him, and he had no power over picking up a drink. And my belief is, and I don't know 100%, but my belief is my dad didn't want to teach us the way that he was living because he wasn't happy with the way that he was living. So what ended up happening is my father actually called my grandmother on my mom's side. So my dad's full blood Cree and my mom is full white. My grandmother on my mom's side, she ended up taking us because my dad said he couldn't do it anymore. So here I am basically in grade 2 coming into grade 3, and I don't have a lot of recollection of being with my mom or her being around. I do have little bits and pieces of memories when I was like really young that she was around, but those are pretty fleeting memories. Very, like, I can have just little pictures in my head. So essentially, I think I built a deep resentment towards, that little bit of abandonment that I didn't have that mom. Every species on earth, like, you look at animals and, dogs, they take care of their little ones, and, animals all take care of their offspring, and they give them love, they give them the nurturing, they're close by them, the little puppies and the little kittens and little animals usually stay close to their mom because they're protected, right? And I think a huge part of that I didn't get as a kid because my mom wasn't right there. And it's an instinctual thing, right? It's not an intellectual thing. It's an instinctual thing that's kind of built right into the cells of who we are and who I was. And as I grew up, I was very angry. I remember when my mom finally did start coming around, and, just so you know, like, me and my mom today have a fabulous relationship. It's one of the best relationships that I have in my life. She's solid for me. She's my rock, and she's always been there. But when I was young and she started coming around finally while I was living with my grandma, I remember her bringing us gifts because she probably felt a lot of guilt and shame by having to, leave us and go take care of her own mental health issues. I'm 99% sure that she had gone to get herself in order so that she could be the mom that she wanted to be. And she did that. But when she had first been coming back into the picture, I was just mad. I was angry. She'd bring gifts to come and see us out at my grandmother's farm. And I just remember how angry I was. And I carried that anger all through my young years. I remember I was in grade 3. Finally, my mom had gotten us back, and we had spent about a year with her. We moved into Calgary and into a community in the southeast, Ogden. And I went to Catholic school. My mom put me in Catholic school, which was fine. I didn't care. But I remember being one of the only First Nations guys in that school. And I felt pretty out of place. Not really realizing it at that time, but having some abandonment issues, being in a culture that was predominantly white. And, kids can be mean in those younger years. And I did face a lot of judgment and prejudice, and other kids saying certain things about my race. And, I heard it all when I was a kid. And I had to stick up for myself, and I had to fight my way through everything. So I was fighting a lot. I was very violent as a young kid. It wasn't because I wanted to be violent. It was because a combination of that, a little bit of an abandonment and the anger that I had built up, and these defense mechanisms that I was developing, these tools or weapons that I was developing as I was growing up, and then having other kids say nasty things to you, and other kids wanting to fight you, and I was just learning how to defend myself. And my dad wasn't in the picture in these years because he was gone. He took off to go again try to get his own self in order, which I didn't know at that point. As he struggled with alcohol and drug addiction, a lot of it basically based in his subconscious due to his own upbringing, growing up in foster homes and getting bounced around and getting taken away from his family home and these kind of things. So he had his own demons to fight. So I grew up with anger. I grew up with frustration and resentment, and it was all based in some type of a fear of trying to protect myself, fear of losing my dignity, and I'm going to stand for my dignity and fight you over that. And just my own personal safety drove a lot of that. And so I was developing these tools at a pretty young age, and they actually helped expand my life. I'm going to say in a good way, in the best way possible as I was growing up, right? But later in life, like in the last probably 5 years, 8 years, they haven't served me. That anger and the violence doesn't serve me. It's just like drugs and alcohol served me for a good chunk of my life because it gave me something. It gave me some relief, and I liked the effect. But at some point, medicating my life with drugs and alcohol, it turns on me. Drugs and alcohol helped me expand my life. It did do a lot. The solution of drugs and alcohol was a great solution for a great number of years, but it turned in its flight and it started cutting me up. And the anger and the resentment and the fear, that shit has turned in its flight and it's cut me up pretty good too. And those things just kind of come out in behaviors, sarcasm and being a smartass and big shotism and, being demanding and saying things to people. I've worked hard on the relinquishment of a lot of these behaviors that haven't served me. And I'll tell you, the pain of working through some of these things over the last 7 years or so, holy shit. It hasn't been easy. But I wanted to change and I wanted a different life. I didn't want to be angry anymore. I didn't want to, I used to be pretty lustful too. I was with my wife for years. And then when I burned down our lives about 8 years ago, it took a number of years to burn it down, but finally I burnt it down 7, 8 years ago and I had to come in recovery. Well, I was with my wife for all those years. And then when she didn't want to be with me and I had destroyed our relationship with my using, lost our house, lost my business, lost my family. We were all essentially homeless there. They were homeless living in my old nanny's 2-bedroom house with her and her potential husband at that time, along with my 3 kids, and she had 2 of her own kids. And I was living on our foreclosed property in a trailer that I bought back from my ex-wife, or that I borrowed back because I couldn't buy it. I had no money. But, through all of these painful things, I've learned a lot. And back to my topic about lust, once Shannon and I were no longer together, I took that opportunity in my first basically 2 years of recovery, and I ran with it. I took advantage of many situations where, a woman was attracted to me, or I would smooth talk my way in, or, I tried a dating app for my first time back then, and I took advantage of situations. And But the thing behind that was my intentions were good. I thought I was being honest and moral, and I thought I was being forthright and upfront with the women as I was interacting with them. But it wasn't until later when I did some more reflection and introspection on the honesty part with my mentor, call him my sponsor, because I can't always see shit on my own. In many instances, I can't see shit on my own. I'm consumed with my own self-concernedness. And in my subconscious, I have pride, and pride doesn't want to admit certain things. So with the help of somebody else to help me go within inside myself and look at these fears and look at these behaviors, I realized that about 2 years sober, holy shit, dude, you're still using people for your own selfishness. And then I looked at this list of women and I was like, fuck, I don't want to hurt people anymore. And really, in the same breath as I'm hurting others, I'm actually hurting myself. Because in my subconscious, and where I'm guided from in here, I'm actually going against that truth that I know that a lot of these behaviors are wrong. And as I go against that truth, I create some shame because I know. But my intellectual mind will try to rationalize those behaviors because that's what I've been taught to do. And that's what our society at large does in many respects. We're taught to do this is okay. And I can get validated through society and my peers that are doing those same behaviors because that's what we were taught. And nobody wants to look at themselves in a negative light. So they're not going to say, yeah, me too. They're going to say, don't worry about it. Everybody does that. And I'm like, okay. So I kind of get indoctrinated with these ideals and beliefs that these behaviors of taking advantage of women or people, bosses even, it can extend into all my life, is okay. But really the part that guides me in here, it knows it's not okay. So there's two pieces of shame in that. One, I'm trying to live up to a societal belief system to conquer as many women or to have this peer acceptance within my fellow man that this is a good thing. And trying to live up to that, if I don't live up to it, I create like an intellectual shame. But even on the intellectual shame, it's deeper than that because it goes down inside me. I call that, it's kind of like false in a sense. But on the other hand, the deeper part of that is I know that I'm actually hurting people when I get honest. And I'm going to talk a lot over these live streams and through all of the material that I have for content on all of my platforms. We talk about rigorous honesty. And I have to get rigorously honest with myself. And that means getting accurate, looking at the actual truth, like the real truth, without rationalizing, without justifying. Looking at these behaviors and what they do and how they make me feel. And where did I get them? And why have I accepted them? There's so many belief systems that we receive in our society that we just assume in our lives and go forward. And I often talk about the spiritual malady that is at the root of my discomfort, my irritability, my restlessness. It's at the root of my addiction. And honestly, it's because I'm going against that deep inner truth. And I'm living on so many lies of what I've learned. That all of these behaviors and these seeking of material goods, houses and cars and clothes and jewelry, the status that I get by having that woman on my arm that looks this certain way or that is like this sexually, as I discuss that with my peers, or the insinuation of how it should be based on being a man in this society. Where we live, how we live, what attitudes we have. I've learned that a lot of those things are bullshit. But for me, it wasn't until, and a lot of that bullshit actually created more anger. We have these desires that we learn about in society. What's supposed to fulfill these desires is really the lie, because the desires themselves are good. But when we get frustrated by not getting what society fucking tells us we should be or have, we don't live up to that. And we create frustration. We create anger, which are low level, anger. If consistently lived in, it can bring you down, man. It can make you very resentful, very spiteful. And we can really harm people in this world. And I am a living example of how much that used to harm our world. But I'm also, even more importantly, a living example of how that can be overcome with a willingness to change and build character. In my title on this live session today, I talked about growing through the pain and the gift of desperation. And growing through the pain is basically the keys to this. What I've learned about my journey here is, life is a journey of growth. It's a journey of healing. Am I going to learn the lesson in any given circumstance, or am I going to blame you? Am I going to get resentful and spiteful and carry that? Or am I going to look at myself and see maybe where I was wrong, or maybe where I expected something from somebody else that maybe they couldn't possibly give me in the way that I wanted it? And why can't I accept somebody else exactly the way they are? Looking at these fundamental inquiries about self, I start seeing things much differently. And the journey of healing through every circumstance, and I mean every circumstance. I can walk outside this door of my apartment and I could be in fear of the world, of people talking to me, of crossing the street, of interacting, like the fear of even getting on this stream. There's always a little bit of fear in everything I do. But I got to look at it like, okay, what is the fear? Why do I have it? And what am I going to do about it? And for me, there's a huge component of my life that I haven't talked about too much so far on these streams is relying on a power, on the universe, on a higher power. I talked about my grandmother who took me and my brother when we were young, when my dad handed us over. My grandmother, her name is Margaret, she passed away in 2009, which is funny enough, the same year I started using crack cocaine. That was the beginning of the destruction of my life. And she died in 2009, and I started using that year. By the time I made it into recovery in 2015, March 22nd to be exact, I didn't really have any belief in anything like that. Although I would pray to it from time to time when I was in a pinch, when I was in trouble, when I was looking at some serious pain, I would pray to something. So, deep down, I guess I knew there was something out there. but my intellectual mind didn't want to acknowledge it ever. But my grandmother, after she passed and I came into recovery, she was actually the catalyst of my higher power. She's the one who I leaned on. She's the one who I talked to. She's the one who I cried to. She's the one who has helped carry me through these 7 years. And I'll tell you, through these 7 years of recovery, life hasn't been easy. But I've had a profound alteration in the way that I live and the way that I think. I've lived my way into good thinking. I have a fairly high level of acceptance, and I kind of look at my life this way. I had my chance to live my life however I wanted to live it, and we all do. And you can live your life however you want. For me, this is my philosophy. I lived it the way that I wanted to. I lived it the way that I was taught to in many respects. And when I run my life, when I look at a lot of the evidence, a lot of bad things happen. I was an alcoholic at a young age. I was in treatment by the time I was 17, and I was running my own life. I beat up a guy so bad when I was 18 that I almost killed him, and I was up, I think it was 1 charge under attempted murder. He didn't show up in court, but that could have changed my whole life right there. That's me running my life. On my 18th birthday, for the next 10 months, I accumulated 8 charges. I was in jail. That's where me running my life gets me. And it's based on, a lot of those traumas, the fear and the anger and, societal belief systems of trying to live up to a certain aspect of who I'm supposed to be based on what the world tells me. And then, later on in my life, once I built a business and, had my family, and those things are all based in instincts too, right? My instinct for material security, sex relation, companionship, emotional security. I had a lot of these instincts based in my relationship and running my business. And all of those instincts drove my business. But a lot of it was also societal education and indoctrination that, get to the top at any cost. But it took me to the point where, I ended up running my life some more, and I ran it into the ground with crack cocaine and with anger and all of these. And I got many, many stories that I'll share with you over the years as we carry on this social media platform, trying to help people change their life. That's what I'm about. So as I go down this path and I look at all the pain and me running my life and what happens, I've come up with this philosophy that I've been given the chance, like we all have on earth, to run our lives however we want. And when I look at mine and where me running my life takes me to, I've given up, and I want to rely on that source, on that power. I don't want to rely on anger and resentment and validation and societal false belief systems to tell me who I am. I want to clear that way, that channel, and I want to go inside and walk authentically truthful with who I'm supposed to be. So I was gifted the chance by Creator to run my life, and I didn't do it very well. Now my gift back to Creator is to live the life that He wants me to. And when I lean into my Creator and I kind of rely on Him, I'm the best father, the best partner, the best friend. I'm the best version of myself that I can be. And when I don't rely on that power, I start becoming the old me again. I start saying stupid things to people. I start expecting other people to act and be who I want them to be, and when they don't, I get resentful and I judge them, and I don't always say things, but eventually if I don't work with my creator, I will say things. And who knows how it can unravel. But I don't want it to unravel because I really like the way things are going inside myself. My one daughter texted me today and she said she's stuck. She doesn't know what to do. She's trying to get off weed and her substances, and she can't. And she did last year. She had seen the change in me to such a degree over the years that she wanted some of what I had. So I hooked her up with someone that could help her with the self-reflection, the prayer, the meditation, and the relinquishment of her own bullshit and try to change. And she did a lot of that. And then she fell back into her old ways. She started smoking weed and doing the things that she did before. And now she's, there's a saying, if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always gotten, and you're going to be where you've always been. And that's exactly where she is today. And she can't seem to find that light to get out of it. So I offered, I extended my hand out and said, maybe you and I can talk and we can sit and we can look within yourself. And, she knows that I'm really good at the self-reflecting inventory. I'm really good at developing relationship and compassion and giving people the space to really get honest and real with themselves. And so she was super excited that I offered to give her that help. She's got her pillars in her life that she relies on, but she's not really reliant on them right now. She's self-reliant. And she's starting to see that when she's too self-reliant, her life's not that fucking good either. And that's very common with most people. But, everyone's on their own journey. I really hope that I can make an impact on this live stream YouTube thing. I really hope I can connect with addicts and alcoholics out there from all over the world. I hope that people come here and ask me questions and I can share my experience with them. I can share exactly what's worked for me. I can share what's actually worked for others. I've worked one-on-one with hundreds and hundreds of people, mostly addicts and alcoholics, but not only alcoholics and addicts. I figure I got 30 to 40,000 hours in on one-on-one time. Some of that may be group time, helping people understand what and who they are and what the illness of the spiritual malady actually is. There's a saying in one of the books that we read, when the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. And I believe that to be 100% true. And the spiritual malady exists right within us based on what I've been talking about today. Those emotional scars, those emotional traumas, the defense mechanisms and coping mechanisms that we grow up with based on societal belief systems and some of the, external traumas that we may have encountered. And when I say traumas, I don't mean like the big headline, like everyone thinks, these big traumas of big things happening. Sometimes traumas are smaller things that affect us in a deep way that we can't shake. A lot of times it's based in just a perception. And sometimes just a perception change in how we look at that is enough to help us heal. I hope people reach out to me. I hope that businesses want to understand the illness of addiction and the illness of the spiritual malady. I think businesses are important in this journey that I'm on. And that's why I have a big focus there, because everybody works, everybody has a job. But the illness of spiritual malady, the illness of addiction doesn't stop just when you go to work. People take that with them to work. And if people are energy, which we are, we will transmit that energy to others within our workplace, within all aspects of that business. And I think businesses, more businesses are on the plane of taking the responsibility for their part in society, because businesses are a huge part of our society. And businesses, in my opinion, should start taking more responsibility in the aspect of the role they play within our society. And what is our society? Our society is people. So we should, businesses should take responsibility more for their people and for the care and well-being of each individual, to kind of like minimize the suffering of each person. And I'm not saying that they change their whole business model to focus on that, which might be a good idea. Because when you work with these upper levels of consciousness, even within a business, that energetic intention actually comes back to you in many different ways. But what I am saying is that we should care more about our family, our people that work for us. We care about our family members, and we hate watching them suffer in whatever they're suffering in. But we'll kind of disregard the people that work for us and make us money. I don't think we should stop at disregarding the people at work. We should try to learn a little bit about them, build some compassion, build a relationship with them, find out what's making them tick, what's making them angry, what's making them frustrated, what's making them want to pick up substances. And the thing about substance use in the workplace is it's fairly accepted to drink alcohol and maybe do a few other lighter drugs that eventually take us down the road of, I'm going to say, banana peel trail. On banana peel trail, once you start slipping, the ego gets involved and it says, yeah, I can control this because I can control everything else in my life. So why couldn't I control this? Drugs and alcohol are taking out probably 15% of our society these days. That's a pretty high percentage. When you think of how many people are on the planet and what 15% of that is, and that's just a shot in the dark. It's pretty high. So I think businesses should be more on a spiritual plane. I know a lot of businesses kind of deal with mental health issues with their employees, but the mental health issue is the middle of the road aspect of what's wrong. Because if you're not okay spiritually, then the mental health issues typically become issues. Because we're living in that area, like I was explaining earlier in my own life, where I'm trying to live up to all these societal stresses and belief systems that create a lot of mental issues within me, based in shame and based in guilt and based in, not being able to talk about it, be vulnerable, look within inside and stuffing it and repressing it. These thoughts and these feelings, they're all energies and you can't stuff them. They go somewhere. And if they're not dealt with, they'll deal with you. And how do they deal with us? They deal with us in mental health issues. And then what's the next phase? They deal with us in physical health issues. So mental and physical health issues, in my opinion, stem from a lack of a spiritual connection. It's a spiritual malady. And I'm good at explaining the malady to people, to groups. And I love working one-on-one with people. It's allowed me to connect in a way that I never thought was possible. It's changed me fundamentally on the inside. Looking at myself, talking to myself, listening to myself. You are me. You have instincts too that manifest into behaviors, emotions, ideas, and attitudes. And some of those I have, and some of those I don't have. But when I can understand that everything you're trying to do is based in your own instincts, in your own best intention, and you keep running into these hard spots in your life and wonder why, I get it. I get it. That's what's made me effective, working one-on-one and in groups and being able to be a teacher. Like, I didn't just show up on this stream because I just fucking wanted to. I believe that I was guided by something to follow a path that I really have no control of, but I can feel it in here. It's not even that I just want to move and go forward. It's like I'm pulled along this journey, this path. This YouTube stream is a manifestation of where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to do. And, you know, so I love working with businesses, helping the owners and the management understand, helping the employees and the union members understand, and then getting everybody on the same page. Most businesses, when they deal with substance abuse, are dealing with the last straw, the last aspect of this, where the person's burned their life to the ground and they now got to go to treatment. So the business will give them the opportunity to go to treatment, or at least give them the opportunity to hire them back once they get well. But typically, once you've crossed the line, it's very hard to come back. We should be catching these people years before they get to that point. And that only comes through love and understanding and care and understanding the spiritual malady. And the cool thing about understanding all this at a way earlier stage as a business is you can build your business and the interworkings within the culture on these upper levels of consciousness. And when people work in a happier environment, when they're more joyful, when they're less resentful, when there's less gossip, when there's less frustration, people work better and they're happier. And they want to come to work, and they know that their employer cares about them. And these are big aspects into the production or what it produces. When a company works together in unity like that, what is the result? The result is a much happier and much loyal and contented workplace. The result is higher productivity, and at the end of the game, there's more money made. And maybe if that business is making more money and they see the benefits of what I'm talking about, maybe they can pay a little bit forward into society in another way. You know, there's this a business program that I'm building right now. It's Stewards of the Land. It's kind of like based in my culture. I want to approach businesses that work with the land or the environment or the alike to maybe take an approach like the indigenous people, the First Nations people, have been given the right by Creator to be stewards of the land. And so there was huge respect, and still is a huge respect of our people, First Nations people, to honor every aspect of Mother Nature. And it's all through ceremony. It's all through spirituality. It's all through a genuine desire to seek and do good things in this world for Earth, and honor with tobacco everything that we take. So, you know, I'm just building that program right now. If you know anyone who owns a business that wants to develop it and grow in a spiritual way, you know, send them my way. Just one sec. I gotta ask my dad to turn down his material. Hey, can you turn that down a little bit? Yeah. Hey, sorry about that. I live with my dad, 74-year-old, awesome man, lives with a lot of humility, helps a lot of people. You know, I got the opportunity last year at about this time to have him move back to Calgary. And I asked him if he'd come and move in with me since I had an extra bedroom. And it's worked out very well. Really, really happy to have my dad here. But anyway, you know, and getting back to, you know, these businesses, corporations, small, medium, and large, living with that spiritual culture aspect that can really help the mental and intellectual aspect that manifests into physical health. And in our culture and in most spirituality, all these things have to be working in balance. And when you look at any entity, and a business as an entity, if things are not working in balance, it doesn't run very well. And nothing in life, it runs very well. Vehicles, if they're not working in balance, if the tires and the motor and the suspension and the steering, if anything's off, it affects the whole thing. And if you keep driving a vehicle with something off, eventually you're in trouble. And that's the same thing with anything. With recovery is the balance, with life and relationships. And I think that's important to know and understand. Things aren't linear. They all work together. And same with our families, Ask you a question. Do you know anyone that has suffered from drug and alcohol addiction? Do you know anyone that's died from it? When I go to rooms and speak and I ask that question, almost every single person puts up their hand when I ask the question, does anyone know anyone that's died from addiction? And many people could put their hand up 10, 15 times. So I'm not just here to help addicts and alcoholics. I'm here to help everybody. Because I don't believe that the spiritual malady is just exclusive to addicts and alcoholics. Yeah, they make more of a mess of it. That's for fucking sure. And we die from it. And if we don't die 6 feet under, we're dead within ourselves. But I know there's a lot of people dead within themselves anyway that aren't addicts and alcoholics, at least in the standard sense of the word with substances. But there's a lot of people addicted to porn, to gambling, to relationships, relationship hopping, and relationship destruction is so apparent out there. I've seen it with the hundreds I've worked with, and I see it all the time in people that I know. One person to another, to another, to another, to another, trying to fill the broken parts within them with somebody external to them, instead of taking the time to go within themselves and look at what and who they really are. The thing is nobody has really taught anybody or exposed this, so people don't really know. And the cool thing is once you know that there is a solution to some of the issues within that maybe we don't even know we had, the journey of self-discovery is amazing. This journey of self-realization takes you down the road to a place where you realize you're not that. I realized I wasn't just angry and violent. I realized that I wasn't just lustful and manipulative. I realized that I wasn't just a business owner and just this and just that. I realized I was something greater than that. And I think that was the gift of desperation, the gift of the blackness and the darkness. Losing all my material goods, my family, my own self-respect and self-esteem. My self-esteem was built on things external to me. But I now today realize I had to lose all of that all of my external things so I could find everything inside myself. And by no means am I perfect or a saint, but I do the best that I can with what I have. And, the building of character is very important to me. Yes, there is desires that oppose the grace of my universe and what it wants for me. And sometimes these things that I think I want, they drive me pretty hard, pretty powerfully, sometimes blindly and subtly. Sometimes they insist on dominating my life even. But the cool thing is I'm aware of it. And because I'm not fully able to be rigorously honest on my own, I do have people that I can go to and talk to, and they can help see the things within me that I can't see. And I'll finish with this topic, and it's vulnerability. I get vulnerable with what I called pillars, God-centered pillars in my life, who are trying to be the best versions of themselves that they can be. These God-centered 12-step pillars care more about my life than my feelings. And I have to know that even when they're giving me the gears, or they're telling me I'm on the wrong track, or they can see this that my pride doesn't like, whatever it is, whatever they're telling me that might upset me or hurt my feelings or make me sensitive or, put my back hairs up. I got to understand that these people actually give a shit about my life and my well-being. And they're only telling me the things that they're telling me because they give a shit. And I always know that. But in the moment, as I'm listening, that might not be the story. But I've learned over time, over the self-discovery, that I have to do that. I have to sit there and I have to listen. And if 4 or 5 people are telling me the same thing about a certain subject, and I still think it's something different, I better really look at that. Because 4 or 5 people that are centered in their own creator, that care about my life, that do this work, see that, but I see it differently, I really, really better pray and meditate on it. And I can still make my own decision, whatever that might be. And the thing with me is, I say life's my teacher. I'll make a decision. And I don't believe that we make mistakes when we're trying to be the best versions that we can. We don't make mistakes. We make decisions that we grow and we learn from. There's a line in our literature that says we claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. I'm not trying to be a saint. I'm not trying to be perfect, but I look that direction. And I try to do this the best that I can. And because I've done it so much within myself, I'm able to teach others how to do this at a high level. Our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. And there's a difference in that. A motive versus an intention, in my understanding, are quite different. I lived my life with the best of intention my whole life. But living on the best of intention, I ran my life based on my own selfishness and my own self-seeking and my own self-centered fear. And I ended up doing a lot of damage to myself and other people. So I have to finally get down to the motive. And the motive is self-concernedness, self-insecurities, self-behaviors that manifest into different aspects of my life, different words, different actions. So once I start being able to talk about these things and look at them in a deeper level, I can now be vulnerable. I can now look at the truth of what and who I am. I can accept things that I never would have accepted because my subconscious and conscious mind don't really want to look at those things. But now I can, for the most part. Certain areas, certain times, I still have trouble. But, this is a journey. that starts every morning when I wake up and ends every night when I close my eyes. And even then, it doesn't totally end because of the dreams that I have that also tell me and teach me. So, I hope you got something out of this video. I know that it almost went an hour, but once I get going, sometimes I just can't stop. And I love to share some of the things that I've gone through to help other people. I'm doing pretty well with not swearing right now. I've really been working on that, and it's working out. Some of the big book studies that I have online, there's a lot of swearing and whatnot in them, but I've really asked for help in these areas, and looks like I'm getting it. So I hope that continues, because I do want to be of maximum service to everybody. So if you want to learn more about me, send me a message, send me an email. You can find me on my email at bill@billward.life. Send me a message on Instagram on bill@billward.life, or no, Billward Life, or Billward Life First Nations. You can follow me on this YouTube, subscribe, like. You can follow me on Facebook at Bill Ward Changemaker. Follow me on LinkedIn, Bill Ward in Calgary. I do have a Changemaker LinkedIn, but I use my personal one much more often. I'm also on Twitter at Bill Ward Life. And if you can relate, or you know somebody that might need some of the information that I have, send it to them. I'd be happy to talk to them. So you guys have yourself a great day, and we'll end the stream here. Thank you for tuning in to the UDRcast. We hope you have enjoyed this episode. The viewpoints and the opinions expressed today were solely of the individual sharing them. If you resonated with this episode, please follow us and share this link with anyone that may benefit from it. Please visit us at billward.life to see everything that we have going on. We can recover, one person, one family, one community at a time.